Good Monday morning. It is a good Monday morning too. It's beautiful outside and I am back at my house. I do miss the beach and the palm trees that were in my background last week, but we're back and it's a lovely day to be back in Maryland. So we are ASMM Digital Small Business Connections, and we are the podcast for entrepreneurs by entrepreneurs. Our goal every single week, every single episode is to give you something you can walk away with for your business, something that you can go, oh my gosh, I'm not doing that. Let me start it. Or something that, like I do with when I listen to Michael Hyatt's podcast, I call Anastasia and I say, Anastasia, let's implement this. So that's what I want for this podcast. I want you to listen to it and take something away from it. I want to remind you to subscribe, that we are on episode 82. And the most important thing is that we are streaming live right now. If you're not listening to this on one of your podcast apps, then we are streaming live, and we're on Facebook, we're on YouTube, and we're on Twitter. I tell you that because we have experts on the show who can help you. If you have questions, if we say something that sparks something in you and you want to know more, ask us a question. Also, use that question, the comments, to plug your business. It's a really easy way to do it, but you get your business out there and somebody else goes, oh gosh, I really need that service. So do use it to plug your business. It's an easy way to do it. Again, ask questions. We've got Bruce Spencer on today, and he is a great resource. One of the guys I admire most in business. I'm very excited about it. Hi, Bruce. How are you?
I am doing well, thank you.
Good. So I have to tell you, I think your story when you talked, we met at BNI. And
Yep.
when you talked the first time and you said, oh yeah, I bought the business and I knew nothing about the auto care industry, but I knew it was a good business. That for me was super brave.
Yeah, well, some people might call it brave. I appreciate that. Thank you.
So tell us why you did that as opposed to picking something else that you might start from scratch.
So I'll give you just a little bit of history on my story and how I began a business. And candidly, it wasn't though as if I had this lifelong dream to own my own business or to our family to own our own business. I had been working for a large corporation. I had gone through 5 corporate moves. I have lots of friends who come back to me now and say, wow, I can't believe you had the guts to do that. And the fact of the matter is, we were playing defense as a family when we bought this business. I had 5 corporate moves. We had moved our family back to Maryland to be with our parents and grandparents as a commitment that we had to each other, because I had had a transition before. We had moved away a 4th time and then moved back a 5th time. So from our perspective, we just wanted to honor that commitment. And once we were here in 2008, our commitment to each other and as a family was that we weren't going to relocate anymore. So I had the good graces of working for a company that allowed us to commute out of state. So I was a bit of a road warrior, but everybody else in the whole family unit was fully intact here with grandparents and lots of help for my wife, Donna, and with the boys at that point at a much younger age. So we said we weren't going to relocate again. And then in 2014, I was presented with an opportunity to transition out of a business. I had worked again for a large company. And since I had been commuting out of state, I needed to find a company that would allow us as a family let me commute and run a piece of business for a larger company. And nobody was willing to do that. They wanted us to relocate again. So as sexy as it might sound that, wow, you're almost 50 years old and bought your own business, the fact of the matter is we had to find a business that, one, we could afford, one that generated the income that we needed to make as a family, either that or take a major step back in lifestyle. And we were very lucky that we found Walt Eger's. And so I'll walk you through that a little bit. But the fact of the matter is again, as sexy as it sounds that we were really proactively buying this business, it was our best option because we weren't going to relocate the family again. We wanted our children to grow up with their both sets of grandparents who, God willing, are still with us today. And we're really celebratory about that. So we'll talk family in a little bit later on in the podcast. But for right now, I looked at it as though, okay, I'm not from the auto industry or the auto care industry, as you said, but I went on and basically looked for businesses that were for sale, that's something that we felt we could afford, that would also allow us to fit our lifestyle, not just financially, but I guess I'd say somewhat ethically as well, as far as balance in life too, because there are certain businesses that, this is all very much pre-COVID, as we know, and when I was doing it. We bought it in 2016. But the fact is I was looking for something. We weren't. I didn't want to own a liquor store. I didn't like the hours. It's a long hours. A restaurant, knew nothing about it. Certainly don't cook. Didn't know anything about the business itself, and didn't want to work weekends and work till 2 a.m.
Right.
So there are lots of those kinds of businesses that are for sale where owners are trying to transition out, and it's a challenge for them. But it wasn't something. And by the way, there are a lot of auto repair facilities that are for sale too. But this one caught my eye because Walt Eger's was a good sized shop. It's a 15-bay shop. We're located here in northern Anne Arundel County in Severn, Maryland. And from our perspective, I was looking, it was interesting because most of the auto repair shops were, asking this much money for their business. And Walt uniquely was asking a lot more for this business. And it caught my eye because I thought, here's somebody who is selling me on their value, or at least loves their business enough to put a big number out there.
Right.
So I got with the business broker. We went through our due diligence. And essentially what I was looking for was a shop that was open Monday to Friday. I didn't want to work on weekends because I have a commitment to family time. I wanted it to be what I would call scalable, which means how much business are we doing today? And with some discovery and learning of the industry, how much could it be doing? So for me, I wasn't going to have a lot of money to go double the business by adding a lot more fixed costs to it. So I needed a business that already had a great structure that could grow in and of itself within its own walls. So for instance, we're a 15-bay shop doing X dollars. The
Right.
shop itself is capable of doing almost twice that amount of business in the current fixed cost structure. I'd have to add personnel to do it. But those are the kinds of things that I was looking at: balance in life, upside opportunity, a great brand. Walt Eger is a gentleman who really built this business on Christian values. And his ask of me and my commitment to him was that we would honor those values and that we would be honest and ethical with our customer base and that we would continue his legacy. Otherwise, he wasn't going to allow somebody to keep his name on the building. And he had
Right.
equity.
I love that. I love, you've told me that story before, that he asked you what kind of man you are, right? What matters to you. And I love that because he clearly loved his business.
Right.
And I don't think everybody does that. They let go of it and they're like, okay, well, I'm done. But he was like, no, you can't have the business. Even if you give me the money, you can't have it unless I know you're a good person.
Well, you
So
have Walt, right? So this is Walt. This is how this went. And he would agree, and he wouldn't be upset me telling the story, but he'd say, are you a Christian? Do you go to church? And I said, well, actually, I was raised Methodist, but I turned Catholic because my wife was Catholic and I wanted to participate. And he goes, Catholic, that's good enough. That's okay. Okay, thanks. So
that's great.
I was raised Methodist and turned Catholic, and he was okay with that. But he definitely wanted to make sure that we would carry on his honest legacy, and that's what we've done.
Yeah, you've done a good job with it. Well, let's talk about that, because one of the things that I personally love about your business, and I've really enjoyed watching with you, and it's probably taught me a lot about what I do in my life, is your commitment to your family.
Right.
Because you have 3 boys who are very active.
Yep.
And you see almost all their games.
I do, but let's be candid. The only way that happens is 2 things, right? One is having great people here working and taking care of customers. Well, 3 things. And we'll talk about one of the things that's our guiding principle that we put in play too later. But the other one is having everybody on board knowing exactly what's expected as it relates to taking care of a customer. And then if mistakes are made, that we still just take care of the customer, and that nobody feels anything punitive as long as you do right by the customer. So from that perspective, it really comes down to allowing me to go out and do the things that I want to do with our family with flexibility, because we have great employees. They know what's expected. They know the behaviors that we expect from them here. And that really, really helps. So without having the right employees in place, having at least some level of good processes where people know what to do and how we're going to run the business, that wouldn't be possible, because really we'd be playing defense and fighting fires all day, every day. And in the auto care business, listen, not everything goes perfectly according to plan, but if you know what's expected and how you're going to approach things with customers, the team knows how to get things done, and they're very good. So knock on wood, it's a small business. You can have a couple people leave, and then you're back to square one, and you're trying to get the right people back on board. But we've been very lucky, and we love the team we have here.
That's great. I want to go back and expand on something you said. You said, when we make mistakes, we want people to know we want our employees to know it's okay, and there's not going to be punishment for that, right? Because mistakes happen.
Right.
The reason I mentioned this is we've just finished watching that show. I think it's called Away, and it's about the trip to Mars. And there's a mistake, a big mistake with one of the parts. And my son, who's 14 years old, says to me, "Who do you think got fired for that?" And it opened this great conversation in our house as to mistakes are okay. It's when you're intentionally not following orders, you're intentionally not following the process, that there's a problem with us. So I think that's what you were saying. I think it's a good point that we've got to make sure our employees know that about us.
So one of the things that we had talked about discussing today was, your best advice for customer service. And I don't want to upset the apple cart here, but I think
that's okay
to kind of put that one in play. And one of the things that I was going to table for us was exactly what you just said. And it's funny that you used the word intent. So in a prior life, one of the gentlemen that I worked with and I, for whatever reason, came up with an acronym. And then I used it and brought it into this business because it really applies. And it's called Trice. And the letters are TRICE. And so, not going into every last detail, but essentially Trice is up on our board. I'm not a huge proponent of having just, say, a mission statement for your business and having the employees feel like they're going to be able to grab onto a mission statement. Because in most cases, I could probably write a mission statement for most businesses from an ethics and a growth and a customer care standpoint. But do you have enough meat within it that people can use it as a guide? So Trice really gives us that guiding principle document that we want to go with. So before I ever hire anybody, before I ever know whether they can sell services to a customer or turn a tool, we go through Trice. And Trice is basically, if you can't live these values, then you're not going to be able to work here. So the T is for trust. You've got to trust internally, front of the shop to the back of the shop, meaning the sales team with the technicians and the technicians back. Respect, again, mutual respect, not only internally, but for any customer who walks through the door. The I is intentions, actually, and so we'll talk about that in a sec. The C is communication. Look, in life, so many things break down because of a lack of communication or misunderstandings in communication, and just making sure that you're taking the time to communicate back and forth, again, either with customers or internally between each other. And then the E is empathy. So for our business, a customer might bring their car in and, it needs 10 things, say, and those 10 things equate to $1,000 worth of repairs. But the fact is, the technician is adamant that it needs all 10 of these things. Well, the person up front selling those services has to work within the budget. We have a lot of customers who are a little bit older, and they might be on a fixed income. So we might put together a plan that says we're going to do 300 and 300 and 400. It might take 3 visits to get all that work done for the customer. So you've got to have that empathy,
right,
to say, hey, we understand your situation. And then the I is really simple. If you have bad intentions, you cannot work here. You will not work here. If you lie to me, if you lie to a customer, if you lie internally to each other, now we're talking about your intentions. You're going to make a mistake. But if you have bad intentions, you may not work here. In fact, and I say this to each person, look, if you lie to somebody to get your way out of a jam, I've already told you that bad news is accepted all day long. It's not going to be punitive unless you have bad intentions. So if you try to lie your way out of something, we're going to walk you out the door. You can no longer work here. Do not be mad at me. Go see your parents. You weren't raised right. Right? That's your problem. It's not my problem. I'm telling you how we're going to live here. And so it's not that we're all perfect, right? We're going to make mistakes. But if you're here and you don't have good intentions to come to work, be a team player every day, to take care of customers, then you can't work for us. And we try to keep it that simple. So our guiding principle in customer service is to use Trice. And in fact, I had one technician one day that another technician and the service advisor came to me and he said, "Are we living Trice?" I said, "Yes." And they said, "This is what happened." They gave me the scenario, and that technician was trying to push things on a customer's vehicle that really would have been borderline unethical. And so they approached me with it, and I went back and I terminated that technician, and I explained exactly why, and that was the last day for that technician. So I think you've got to have something that your employees can really grab a hold of to drive the behaviors that allow you to break ties, if you will, and make sure that everybody's on the same page, and including me. By the way, they can turn that document around and hold me equally as accountable, and I've told them that. So
Right.
we do our best.
Right. So we're on a podcast, and I love podcasts. I love learning from other people. And just this morning, I listened to another Michael Hyatt. Listen to Michael Hyatt a lot, but I listened to Michael Hyatt talk about character and that specific thing about how he had somebody who had brought him $15 million of business on a regular basis.
Okay.
But when he found out what he was doing to other people within his company, even though the CEO of the company was like, "I don't think we can let this guy go," he's like, "I don't think we can keep him. And if we keep him, I think it's dangerous for us." So it does. Your character matters so clearly. And they let him go, and they did fine. It was a hard thing to do, but it's important for you to have that thing and say, no, our integrity matters more than anything else.
Right. And guess what? Just like your kids, I'm not going to call the employees here my children, but we're all watching each other, right? And
Right.
especially in today's world where everybody can't just wait to point out the negative in somebody else's character or their being, you know what? Find the good in people, right? Find the good. And then if you have something that you've got to manage, you have to manage it. But to your point, you said it well, they can't afford not to let that go, right?
Right.
They can't afford to let that go. It's impossible.
Absolutely.
You've got to address it. And everybody's watching to see whether you're going to address it or not. And so you might lose a few battles, but it's really about winning the war, right?
Yeah, exactly. And and he said, so what is your price? Is your price then $15 million? You're like, okay, well, my integrity is worth that. Yeah, I'll let go of my integrity for the $15 million. So
Right.
yeah, you have to think about that. So let's talk about, and this was something that I know because we've talked a lot about your business.
Right.
You've had some struggles hiring, which honestly is hard to go through, but it's great from a learning perspective because now you know so many more things. So tell me some of the lessons you've learned about hiring.
Well, and look, I don't think anybody ever gets hiring down perfectly, right? I don't think that's even a possibility because there are people involved and personalities and dynamics that go with it. But, for me coming in from outside the industry, day one was, you're not a technician, correct? I've never been a technician. I probably never will be. My job is to get you new customers in that fit our profile of customers that we would like to have here at the shop. And so my goal is to load the wagons, if you will, so that our technicians and service advisors and the team here can make a living. And so when I'm going to hire, I'm doing the interviewing because I'm the owner and we're a very small business. And so it took me time because I don't even know the correct questions to ask a technician. And I look foolish as the owner and asking a handful of questions because inevitably the conversation is going to go deeper or take an aside or go down a different path. And I'm ill prepared to answer any of those questions that might come up from a technician. And even for somebody who is out selling our services, we call them service advisors. So what I've done is done a lot of cross interviewing. I'm actually part of a group called Automotive Training Institute, which isn't necessarily for technician training, but for owners training and for sales training as well. So we think of things as the back of the shop really being the technicians where the work gets done, and then the front of the shop, which is where the service advisors are there greeting and meeting with customers and selling the services. And so as the owner, I participate. We're one of 1,400 shops in an independent network. We're members of the group. And it really helps me use some of their guiding principles. So they've given us templates that we can use. We make mistakes. Look, and the thing to do is if you do make a mistake and somebody's not a fit, you're better off just parting ways early, explaining exactly why, holding each other accountable to it. Because I've been working for 4 years to try to get the right cultural fit in here for our employees. And when you're running a large corporate organization, to think that everybody's going to be perfectly aligned and perfectly together on personality, it doesn't have to be that way simply because there were 4,000 people in that group and you'd never pull that off. But we're a small company, and having 10 people all on the same page is tricky and hard to do. But once you get there, it's pretty magical because everybody helps each other out. Everybody knows each other's business, whether it be familially. It just enters into the business whether you want it to or not. And so for us, trying to ask the right questions, set the right expectations, specifically with regard to the behaviors in Trice, and making sure that we've got the character correct so that we're not, at odds with each other, is probably the biggest thing that we do. And then you absolutely have to train to the right skill set as it relates specifically to the technicians. So we've had our fits and starts. We've bumped along, and I think, knock on wood, we've got a really good team right now.
Right. Well, and that's the thing. You can have somebody who is a brilliant technician who can't get along with anybody in your shop, and then what do you have?
And
you have a big mess.
You wouldn't know this behind the curtain, but technicians, they're a proud bunch, right? So they a lot of pride in knowing how to fix a vehicle and to be right, and putting their egos down to ask a question, to say, hey, let's get some other eyes on this, can be a challenge depending upon personality, because everybody likes to be the smartest in the room.
Right, exactly.
Part of being the smartest in the room is knowing that you're not the smartest in the room, or that somebody else can help you. So you can get a lot of synergy in the shop. We're also part of, basically online technician platforms that are available to us within the industry that everybody can Google or YouTube everything, but we actually are a party to a network of thousands of technicians who have seen the exact same problems time and again, where we do reach out and we do try to do some best practice sharing online and gaining from some of that insight. So having people who are willing to do that and not have to have all the answers every day, put your ego down, you'll be a lot smarter for it, is pretty key in the shop. And we're there now. We have people that are willing to do that.
Yeah, well, and that makes a lot of sense. I think, we have a common friend who also owns a shop, and he said to me, I think our mechanics have to be smarter than our doctors because our bodies have not changed in, thousands of years, but our cars change every season, and they're getting more and more and more advanced. So our mechanics do have to be, yes, they've got that ego, but they can't know everything, and especially as things are developing. So I think that's really smart.
Absolutely, and certainly in the physicians community, technology changes. I will tell you that as you see on your cars today, as you go to buy your next car, you'll see the amount of technology that's on that, and we've got to keep up. We're lucky in that we're a large shop, so we have critical mass. We're big enough that we can afford to keep up with the technology. There are lots of small independent shops who aren't going to be able to afford to keep up with the technological changes that are there because they're expensive. And I put all of our collective customers here on notice that, car repair is expensive, and it's probably going to get more expensive because as cool as that technology is, when it breaks, it's pretty painful. Just
absolutely.
Harking back to your iPhone, whatever you have a Samsung, that's fine. But whoever thought you'd pay $1,000 for a phone?
Right. And we're all happy to do it.
Oh, absolutely. Because whether you like it or not, it's on your hip and it's tied to you now for a good long while. And it's great to have, but it's a little bumpy when something goes left on you. But cars are going to get to that point too right now.
Right. Well, I want to go to something that I think is one of the most interesting things you do, and I wish everybody had a shuttle because you use it in an interesting way. You drive the shuttle for your shop. So tell us why you do that and what you're really getting out of it, because I think it's one of the smartest things you do.
Okay. Well, thanks. So again, by default, so think about it. I don't fix cars. I don't sell the services. So where can I add some value? So I said, hey, look, why don't I be the morning shuttle driver? But I do that for a few reasons. Walt had a business that was here for 30 years. He knew a lot of the customers over a long period of time. And so for me, if a customer is coming in, we all have busy lives. So a customer doesn't want to stand there and get to know me and hear my background, or me ask them questions to understand them at the counter for 15 or 20 minutes. Not to mention I have another customer there who is, potentially eavesdropping, and maybe their willingness to share isn't quite there. So for me, I thought, well, if I drive the shuttle, I get to know customers. I'm coming up a learning curve. I'm trying to understand our customers, understand a little bit about them, get to know them a little bit, and mostly because, think about it. Pardon me. As small business owners, we want to know the pulse of our business, and we want to understand. And specifically, even big businesses, you're trying every day to figure out what's important to my customer. What do they care about? Who are they? What are their dynamics? I'd like to understand all of those things. Well, in the shuttle, it's a disarming situation where I'm just asking you questions about whether it be your family, or if it's a retired gentleman, say, I assume you're retired. Yeah, I've been out for 20 years. So what keeps you busy now? It's a fun conversation. You're coming in here for auto repair. We're probably not going to give you great news when it's time to transact with you, because you were here because your car has something wrong with it, unless it's just for an oil change. And so why not try to make it a better experience by just spending some time together, get to know each other a little bit, and hopefully building some trust that you understand that we're going to be honest and ethical. And if you have a question, you can ask me. I always get a kick out of it. We have a 3-year, 36,000-mile warranty. And I say, look, there are lots of companies immediately when you come in and there's an issue, they're going to go to the document, and they're going to look for fine print, and the manager doesn't have the authority to do this or do that. And I just tell people, look, I'm the owner. If it's fair and it's right, and we know it's something that we should stand behind, we stand behind it. And we try to keep it old school and simple. Do what you would do for your family. And the shuttle rides for me are just a chance to get to know customers a little bit better. Again, get through that curve from, Walt's 30 years. I come in on day 2, I don't know anybody, and I've got to learn customers. So it's been fun, because over 4 years, and I still do it. I took 3 people home this morning, and I said, hey, look, I'm good till about 9:45. Then I'm going to be on with Ann, and then I'll be back in business here when we get finished. So
right.
Good time.
Well, so one of the things that I love about it as a marketer is there's 2 things you need to know to market your business. One of them we know really well. We know our business, right? We know exactly what we do. We know what our services are. We know what our value is.
Right.
We know all of that. But the other thing you need to know is your customers.
Correct.
And I will say to my customers, I'll say to my clients, so what are your customers reading? What are they watching on TV? What are they doing? And they don't know, and how many of your customers are runners? How many of them aren't runners? How many of them lift weights? What are the things that you need to know about your customers? And you have that opportunity. You've got them right there. So you can figure out who your customers are and how to market to them. That is huge.
Right.
So
we have a real quick conversation with many of our customers, because either they work on Fort Meade or at NSA. So we have very brief conversations because they can't tell me what they do in many cases. So we go to family, and we talk about that. But to your point, again, having come from corporate roles at a general management level, we used to spend thousands of dollars doing market research and trying to understand exactly what it was that our customers liked about our products and services. And so think about it. For the cost of a shuttle ride, which is free to both of us, I get a chance to really just ask some of those voice of customer questions. In a prior life, we called it voice of customer. So what is that voice? What do they want? What do they like? What do they value? Are they willing to pay for that value? Because we're not the cheapest person in town, but we stand behind our work, and we're going to do the best work we can. We're going to train like crazy. And I'm not here to give you an elevator speech, but the fact is, not everybody is our customer. And I'm fine with that. That's okay.
Right.
We don't advertise a $15 oil change to get you in the door so we can find stuff to make a ticket profitable for ourselves. We just don't do that. We charge a fair price for an oil change. We're happy to do it. And if it evolves into, you need other things, we'll give you a digital inspection with 45 points. We'll send you pictures and video of it, and you can make your own choice. You came to the doctor, and here's the information, and you can do with it what you want. We'll educate you on what we would do, with the premise of, we tell our service advisors, sell to your customer every day like it's your grandmother. because you never lie to your grandmother, right? You would
Right,
never
right.
her. So if you use that as a guiding principle, that's a really good baseline to say, all right, am I treating the customer fairly, and am I proposing the right things for the customer? And you try to give visuals to your team so that they can relate to it and say, you know what, that makes a lot of sense.
Right, right. So I want to say something about, I said at the beginning of the show, I won't, this is the podcast for entrepreneurs by entrepreneurs, and I want you to walk away with something. And today, I think a great thing for people to walk away with is this piece here, which is, what is your shuttle? What is the shuttle that you have? What is the thing that you have that you can learn from your customers? So something that's important to you, that's something that you can add that gains this information, because I think it's such a valuable thing that you're doing there.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. So
it's fun. It's fun.
Yeah.
Getting to know customers is fun. Don't ever go sit in an office if you're the owner. Don't do it, because you'll just lose touch.
Absolutely. I think it's so, so important. And people laugh at me, and you know how well I know my customers. I know, if their mom's in the hospital. I know if they're, how their parents are getting through COVID right now. I know what their kids are doing and whether they're getting a tutor for them. I know all of these things about my customers because I care about them. And that's important. As long as we know these things, some of them might help me with business. Some of it's just going to help me make sure they know I care about them.
Well,
right?
Hey, listen, if you're not authentic, people will see right through it. So the fact that you ask and you do care. I mean, we were prepping for this for a few minutes before and had a couple minutes, and the first thing you did was say, hey, how are the boys? And
right.
I appreciated that. So, hey, who doesn't like to talk about their kids, right?
Right, exactly. And you've got some pretty amazing boys. So it's fun to watch what they're doing. I'm always wondering where they are now.
Yeah, thank you. So far, so good.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So tell us how people are going to get in touch with you. I've got walteger.com across the bottom, but
Sure.
how else can they reach you?
Oh, you know what? You can call us, walteger.com. We'll give you all the information you want. Actually, you guys were very good. We're in the middle of redesigning our website right now. So if you look at it today and you look at it 3 weeks from now, it's going to be completely different, but it'll still be the same address. We're located off of 170 right here in Severn. We're 0.2 of a mile back off the main road, but I think with Google Maps and everything nowadays, we're very easy to find. So if you think about the Route 32 and I-97 North interchange, which most people would know where that is, we're about 7 minutes from there. So you'd come out 32 and up 170. But again, with Google Maps, we're very easy to find. You can call us. I'm happy to participate in this, Ann. I'm not here to pitch my business. If people want to come in and use us, we love having new customers. But I appreciate the opportunity you're giving me today just to chat.
Well, I'm glad you came on, because I think that's it. We can all learn from each other. And like I said, I learn from you all the time. I learn, from a lot of people in BNI, but you've been a fun one because you're outside of my business. You're so far outside of my business, right? I've got this creative business and you've got this, straightforward, this is a car, let's fix it business. Right. But I learn a lot from you, from what you do. So it was an honor to have you on. Hold on one second. I'm going to tell everybody what we have coming up next. I'm going to come right back to you.
I'll sit tight.
Okay. All right, everybody. Wednesday, we have somebody coming on to talk about creating a culture of excellence. And this is so important because we can run a mediocre business and it's not going to last. But if we run an excellent business, if we create an excellent culture and we create an excellent product and an excellent service, we give so much more. So this is going to be a great conversation we have on Wednesday. I want to remind you to subscribe. The YouTube subscription is across the bottom. It's youtube.com/BrennanAnnie. That's where you go to help me look less like a nerd with my kids. If you subscribe there, they'll think that I'm less like a nerd if I eventually hit 1,000 subscribers. But you can also subscribe wherever you're listening to this podcast. And I know you can listen to this podcast just about anywhere because we are constantly hearing from different platforms to say, hey, by the way, your podcast is live here now. So go find us anywhere you listen to podcasts. And if you have time, leave us a review there. The only advertiser we have on the show right now is asmmdigital.com. That's me. That's my business. So if you need help with your social media marketing, you want to run Google ads, you want to do email marketing, you need a new website, any of that you can get at asmmdigital.com. We're a small business. We're almost all moms, which means we care a lot. We care just like a mom cares. That's our job. So if you need us, please do reach out at asmmdigital.com. We would love to help you. I want to go back to Bruce real quick. There you go. Hey, Bruce, thank you so much for coming on.
Hey, it was my pleasure, and thank you for having me. I look really forward to the Wednesday podcast as well, because when you talk about excellence, it's something that you almost never can get to, but you all strive for it, right? So I'm
Right.
very interested. So great topic, and I look forward to listening.
Yeah, we have some great guests coming up. I've been very lucky since we started this to have a lot of different entrepreneurs that either reach out to me or I've reached out to them. And
Right.
we've got a lot of good people coming on. So thank you very much. All right, everybody, we will see
Having
you Wednesday. Yeah, thank you. All right, bye-bye.
Take care.
Bruce, you stick around 1 minute.
Oh well. Yep. Thank you.